I'm Brad Newcombe, and you're watching Pressure Point. Marriage is a fragile bond at the best of times, and lots of components go into a marriage. The families that we come from, our religious and our cultural backgrounds, as well as our unique personalities. And whether we're raised Catholic or Protestant, Jewish or Christian, Hindu or Muslim, religion does make a difference. With me to talk about their marriage and their upbringing are two people who I've come to know over some time, the Reverend Vasant Saklikar and his wife Bhanu Saklikar. And the two of you were raised Hindu and Muslim and are now Christian. Welcome, and thanks for coming on to talk about your life story and your marriage.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
It's good to have you.
It's really a pleasure to be with you.
Well, I'm just really interested, first of all, in where you were raised and how you met. Maybe Bhanu, could you start?
I was raised in Gujarat, in a small city. My father was a doctor, and my mother was a homemaker, and we were four in the family.
And which part of India? Just maybe say a little bit about the part of India, the kind of background and religious upbringing.
Originally I come from a small village which is predominantly Muslim, and very prosperous farmers. And many people have educated, and half the village is out of India in the Western Hemisphere. So that's the background, and it's in the province of Gujarat, from where Gandhi comes from. I always say so people know where it is.
Well, yes, so that helps for those of us who aren't really familiar. That does help to identify it, doesn't it?
So I'm a Gujarati,
Okay.
coming from Gujarat province of India. And I was first woman to be a graduate of University of Bombay.
Oh, well, very good.
And where I met my husband.
Okay, so that's where you met at
the university,
okay.
yes.
So let's, you can take us from the beginning to this point where you meet.
Right. I was born in a very small place, around 560 miles from Bombay, in a province called Maharashtra. And we speak Marathi language. And the village that I was born still is on the map, and but it's still quite pristine in its habitation. I was raised, though, in different parts of Maharashtra because my father was a judge, and we were three brothers and sister. And I was fortunate enough to be born in a family which was a high caste Hindu family, and but my father was very much westernized in his thinking because he was a lawyer and a judge, studied in the university law, and then had been called to the bench. And so he gave us the education. He wanted us to be ourselves, sort of,
Now, okay, he wanted you to be yourselves, but did he want you to be as much yourself as to then end up falling in love and marrying a woman who comes from a different religion?
That was beyond his expectations, and I think he was really disappointed that that happened. But it did happen in a way. See, in India, most of the marriages are arranged marriages, and my marriage would have been arranged if I would have said yes when I was 18. But I said no at the time. And because at the time I had met this woman who was
Bhanu.
Bhanu, and I had met her through our university career, but also beyond that, at the time I used to work in a slum. It's one of the largest slums in India even today, and in that slum I worked as a young man outside of the college and university in the mornings. And we needed a teacher there. And the American Friends Service Committee, who were leading the program, they asked me to put an ad. And so we put an ad in the newspaper. And I had seen Bhanu, but she was so marvelously beautiful that I never thought that I was going to have anything to do with her, And she used quite a bit of fashionable jewelry and saris and very expensive. I never thought that I'll have anything to do with this girl who looked so fashionable and so out of, not a person like me who is working in the slums, she would be fit to be sort of my partner.
Well, and life is full of surprises. So things worked out very well, because I know that you've been married 40 years, or more than 40 years.
And so here then, she applied. She was the person who applied for this position, and that's how we got to know each other. And within a year and a half, we decided that we were people meant for each other.
But okay, now maybe just to help me to understand, in the culture that you came from in India, what that means for Hindus and Muslims to be together. Say a little bit about the relationship between Hindus and Muslims, and like the history there.
Well, it's a long history, and it's not a very friendly history. And two religions, they're so different. And traditionally, one does not marry into another. So
and that's a pretty serious thing, isn't it?
It's an extremely serious thing. And people won't, if they have a chance, it goes up to killing one's child than to let her or him marry into a different religion.
So in other words, so the two of you are risking your lives.
Yes. Yes.
At this point, at 18, 19 years old, when you meet at university,
yes,
as Hindu and Muslim, just to date each other.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
We were very scared, and it has to be done very quietly.
So did you, were you able to hold hands in public? Were you
No.
Okay, tell me about the courtship then. I mean, this is, I know it's personal, but it's interesting.
Go ahead.
Well, yes, we did go out. We used to go out to the library or once in a while to a movie or something, but always watching over our shoulders that nobody's let's get out and get going so nobody will see us.
Who do you tell? I mean, what do you do? I mean, can you tell
No,
anybody?
you cannot tell anybody. Yes, really, you cannot talk to anybody.
And so it was, whether it was God's call or whatever, you
Right.
want to call it. When we were going through this, when we decided to get married, I decided that I'll go and meet her parents and confront them that here, you believe, because her father was a Gandhiite, believed
Right.
that all religions are equal, they should not be fighting, though the communities were fighting, and so I thought, well, I'm just going to go and visit. So
and see whether he can practice what he preaches.
right,
I
right.
mean,
And the same thing with my father. I thought that, he always said, that as long as we are ourselves, and in this case, I was being myself, and so I thought both sides would be no problem. The communities may have problem, but not the parents, see. So first I went to visit her folks. She warned me. She said, if you go, it's going to be really hard because I don't think that you will be accepted. But I didn't sort of believe her then. And so I did go and talk to him. And he, as a father, said, yes, I really appreciate what you're doing, but it will never happen because the communities
won't accept it.
They won't accept it. And it would make our life miserable.
You mean the two of you? So
No,
then, in other words,
No, it's not so much. Our life, of course, will be threatened and not very pleasant to live in the atmosphere, but it's the parents' lives.
right.
Because by then my father was retired and he came into the small community,
Right.
and people will just see, we told you so that you don't send your daughters to the university.
Don't educate them, we told
Because
What
then
happens,
they do
yeah,
these things
what
like
happens.
meeting someone from another
Yeah.
religion, another
Right,
county,
right.
those kind of things.
And
So-
all that.
So he said that it shouldn't happen, and I said, no, it's going to happen, we are going to get married. And then, of course, I went to see my father, and his answer was more a little bit, he said, well, you're my oldest son, you're doing this, so it's going to be really hard on the rest of your brothers and sisters, but I don't see how I can stop you because you have made up your mind, And so we then decided to find somebody who would marry us. And of course, the religious communities were frowning upon, so we ended up finding somebody who would marry us, but no witnesses even. And so these American Friends Service Committee people, two of the friends from there, they became the witnesses, and that's how we got married.
So now, did you get married in a Muslim or a Hindu
Yes,
ceremony?
Muslim ceremony
Muslim.
first.
Right.
First.
First Muslim ceremony. And then, of course, his mother was very disturbed. So then we got married in a Hindu ceremony. And then at that time, I was telling you that she changed my name.
That's right. You were mentioning this before the
Yeah.
program, that,
Yeah.
and I had never heard this, that
Yeah.
it's the Hindu custom for the mother-in-law.
To change the daughter-in-law's name.
So that
So-
she's given a different identity altogether.
Identity.
So it
of
wipes out the past completely.
yes. And then we have, I'll show you, this is, we don't have a ring. This is what husbands put in your neck
Oh,
as the married woman. And this has to be this design only. This indicates two people.
right.
Yes.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Thank you. But that's what husband puts, and it's like a putting a rope around your neck or something.
So it may be beautiful, but I mean, there's
that
symbol.
your
That's
identity
right.
is
Your
all
identity is
changed,
changed.
So in other words, you've lost your name, you've got
Yeah.
a new name,
Yeah.
and you've got this something sort of around your neck.
around your neck.
And not only
See,
that-
my initial is, if you read, it's V. It's his name. My initial.
Well,
is-
I mean, I think it's interesting. You tell the story about your name.
Yeah.
Your name before you were married, the name afterwards. Then I want to hear you, Vas, talk about how you reacted to that.
Yeah, I sort of said to myself that that's not right, because I believed that all religions, they teach loving your neighbor and, being good to each other. And I said, this is not right that she should change her identity. So I kept calling her Bhanu. And this was really hated by my parents and saying, how dare you do this, And I said, no, she is Bhanu because that's her name. She was born with it, And so I won't change the name. So I still call her Bhanu.
And how did that make you feel, Bhanu?
well, to me, I mean, it was really immaterial. So, because I know my husband that he's not going to treat me, or we have a different relationship. So it didn't really bother me that much. It creates a confusion because on my passport, my name is Bhanu, and then he calls me Bhanu. So sometimes it creates a confusion, that's all. But it didn't matter to me that much.
Did your parents think that and the community think that they had some really rebellious people? I mean, like,
Yeah,
and again, I mean, I don't want to make light of the seriousness of that you were really going against long-standing traditional, cultural,
Exactly.
religious values.
Yes. And the community really said to my father, just as community said to her father, that you made a mistake. These kids, they are not obedient to you, they don't care for you people, and this is what they did. They have become rebellious, and it's really not right that they should be doing that. See, but my father was more accepting in a situation than her folks. They never talked to us for nearly
22 years.
Yeah.
But the thing is, in Indian concept, if your daughter marries outside the community and religion, it's more insulting.
Right, okay.
People can kill for that. Then your son marrying, because the son is bringing something whom you change her identity and everything, you can change and mold her into your family situation. And sort of women are possession, so your possession shouldn't behave like they say it's an insult to your manhood, to the father, that what kind of a man you are. You should just go and kill her. So that's the end of it.
That's shocking. I mean, really,
Yeah.
I mean, it's shocking. I mean, it's shocking. I mean, to think that, it goes to that extreme length.
yeah.
And again, you're saying that it's almost worse now than it used to
Oh,
be.
it is worse.
Yeah.
The
The
breaking-
intolerance has become more pronounced now because of the whole sort of fundamentalist thinking, that, you shouldn't be really marrying. Marriage has become, see, I think that's one distinction that I should make, because as a Christian minister, I know what Christian marriage is all about, where we tell the couple, that you shall leave your mother and father and be joined to each other, sort of. While in Hindu thinking, and I think to some extent it would
Yeah.
be in the Muslim thinking too, it's the girl who has to go and join the husband's family. It's not two joining. See, it's not
So it's not a partnership. Is that it would? I mean, I don't want to put words.
No, that's
but I mean,
right.
Is that right? I mean,
Yeah.
in the sense because I mean, what you were talking about was the changing of the name and the loss of identity was leaving something behind. Wasn't
Behind, and you're marrying to the whole family system. You're not just marrying to one person. Like you're in Hindu culture, you're marrying to the cow, and you're marrying to the field, and you're marrying to whole the family, extended family of environment, everything.
Yeah.
You're not marrying to just a man.
And ideally, I think it's great, but that's a tyranny of you lose your individualism in it. And I think that's what we were not ready to accept.
And that's the danger of all tradition, isn't it? I mean, in every
Sure.
culture, in every religion, in every sort of system,
Right.
that tradition can become so fixed
Right.
that we lose sight of sort of the
humanity.
the humanity, and the ability for people to choose, and the unpredictable nature
Exactly.
of human relationships.
Right.
That
right.
I mean, that people can cross boundaries.
yeah.
We all cross lines and so on, and that's
Right.
one of the great joys of life.
Right.
But with it, there's a
The cost.
a big cost.
Yeah. And we, in all honesty, felt that we shouldn't put ourselves as well as whatever family we would have under that stress. And so that was our choice. And I was really, at the time, I was called to be Indian Administrative Service Officer. And that was my father's wish that I would go into. But because of our marriage, we decided that this is not right. And as we were going through all this, for us, there was a call from Newfoundland and Memorial University of Newfoundland, and they wanted to set up the Department of Gandhian Studies there. And so that's how we got out of
So you left India and came to Canada, to
came
Newfoundland.
to Newfoundland.
Go ahead.
That's the reason we didn't go back. Some people I have asked often, people ask me, why didn't you go back? How did you come? Like, who sponsored you? And I said, nobody sponsored us. And we didn't go back for the sake of our 2 children, because we didn't want them to undergo all this friction, because it would have been going on for all our life. It would not stop. So that's the main reason we stayed in Canada, that they didn't have to go through.
Now, the other interesting thing that happened to you in Canada, of course, very interesting, which significantly changed your lives, is that you are now both Christian.
Yes.
So tell me how that happened.
To me, my father, whatever his ideas were, but he was quite different. He didn't send us, like 4 of us, but he usually, like Muslim family will send their children to the Muslim school, where the Arabic will be taught and the Muslim culture will be taught. Just like here we have a Muslim school in Richmond. So, but he says, no, my children will go to the mainstream school. They are not going to go to the Islamic school, because that's too narrow. We have to be in the mainstream. So that was the reason I was like that, because I was not really practicing Muslim.
So you're, in other words, yes, because you had been exposed to a sort of a broader.
And then
education
I
system.
lived in residence for women when I was attending Bombay University, which was run by the Methodist people for 100 years. It's one of the oldest institutions for women in India. So there also I came in contact with the Christian religion. And because I was not ingrained with any religion, but taught to, like my father used to read us Tolstoy, Bernard Russell, and Shakespeare, and all that he used to read us when we were 8 and 10 years old. So like my thinking was, I was quite curious about Christianity and all. And I like to think that Christ found me. I didn't just become Christian.
Okay. That's how did,
Well, my journey sort of has taken me studying different religious faiths. Before I met my wife, I was the only Hindu student in an Arabic class, which was no in those days in the university setting as well. But I did that, and because I wanted to study Islam, so I know the Quran and I know what it involves, and I sort of had studied Hinduism at length. And when I came to Canada, I never expected the religious fundamentalism here. I thought that it was a Christian country, and as such, there was an acceptance because of the American Friends Service Committee people who had influenced me in India. I thought
That's what the whole continent would be like. Well, surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise. I come to Newfoundland, and for the first time I realized that the denominations were fighting. It was not the religions, but these were our denominations,
Yes.
And they were saying, no way, our children will go to United Church school because they're Anglicans, and the United Church was saying the same thing. So it was all, and I said to myself, there has to be something to the Christian religion which goes beyond this. And at this time, I met this one gentleman who really showed his Christian faith. He served the 150 miles coastline of Newfoundland as a minister at the time. And he accepted me as I was, without any religious background, sort of, though I was Hindu, still he accepted me. Of course, in strict sense, when I married my wife, I ceased to be a Hindu,
Because you had broken a rule.
broken a rule. And so
if you were, like what you two have done is an incredible journey. I mean, in the sense that, you've personally and through communicating with families and across cultures and faiths and so on, I find it very interesting. But it's not unique to yourselves. There'll be all kinds of people in all kinds of homes right across this country where they're coming home and doing what you did. And really nervous about saying to their mom and dad that they are going out with, they're going to marry somebody from a different faith, a different culture, a different race. What would you say to the parents?
If you were to ask me, I would say to the parents, if you love your children, you will respect their choice, and you will really love the choice they have made for their partner. And I wouldn't restrict that to any religious person. If my daughter came with somebody who is Muslim, I wouldn't say that, oh, you have to change him to Christian faith, because that's not the part where two individuals who respect each other come together. I don't think that should be the issue, and so I would say to the parents that you should learn to respect the individuality of your children, because they are not children when they become adults and bring their would-be spouse for your blessing or your acceptance. So
I would say that, plus I would tell them that, to tell their children that it's not an easy journey. So point out the pitfalls. It's a real struggle because it never ends. That struggle goes on and on, because with us, because I wasn't raised traditionally Muslim, and I was always exposed to all the literature, and all my friends were Hindus, and I used to attend all the Hindu festivals, so I have quite a bit knowledge of Hindu religion. And in spite of that, you have to always, there are differences because you have raised in a different culture almost because of your religion. So you have to warn your children that what you are doing, plus the pressure of society all around you, it's not something easy you are entering in.
No, and that all those things are going to put more pressure on the relationship as well.
Relationship, yes.
And relationships, even under the best of circumstances, already have a lot of pressure on them.
Pressure, yes.
Exactly.
So it's a journey. You have to take it consciously, and it's a tough journey. That much I'll tell them. I mean, go ahead and do it, but it's not something easy.
And commitment is at the center of it all. If you have to be committed to the partner that you are meeting, and I think you have to take it seriously, that part of the relationship.
The different, say, religious backgrounds and cultural backgrounds and so on.
Backgrounds and also.
And not minimize it.
Not minimize it.
No,
And respect, I think respect is at the forefront in my thinking, that if your son or daughter comes home with a man who is, say, Hindu, respect the Hindu faith, because I feel that there are some beautiful things in Hindu faith. The fact that the person is Hindu should not be counted against that person, because your daughter chose that man to be her partner.
And obviously sees many things, and
Sure.
and obviously has fallen in love for different reasons.
Different reasons.
You know, you come from very different backgrounds, but I know your parents aren't here now, are they? But
No, they both are gone.
But I think they did a fabulous job.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, and they certainly.
Yeah, this is very true, because our parents are not, they're unique.
And they're unique, and they created unique people.
Yeah,
and that's what each one of us has to.
Yes,
has
because they were different. Our parents were not themselves, particularly our fathers, because the mothers didn't have a scope to do that much. But the fathers, both the fathers, were different than the ordinary people. Ordinary means, I don't mean in a sense ordinary, but usually people think. Their thinking was quite different. And both the fathers, though they came from different parts, somehow they had a similar thinking.
So similar thinking. Yeah. Well, I just want to thank you for sharing so much of your life with us. We're out of time, but have to go. But thank you both, Vas and Bhanu Saklikar.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
It's been a real pleasure.
Mm-hmm.